Hi guys, this is part one of a two-part video. This is how I made the Marvel Venom inspired makeup prosthetics. So in this video, I show you how I made the fingers, claws, tongue, and teeth. To create my fake fingers or claws or whatever you want to call them, I used a airlight clay. I'm just going to cut a chunk off here and warm it up, moving it around. I first started by creating a little circle or a ball out of this. Then using the back end of a makeup brush, I'm going to start creating a hole where my finger would go. Then from that circle, I'm going to pull out a point to create more of like a claw or nail. Using clay does take time. You're going to have to be patient with it, and you're going to have to work it. I won't say it's easy, because for some people it's not, like me. I'm not a master clay user. Whatever you need to do to manipulate it, you can use your fingers, some tools like the plastic little knives here that I have, or makeup brushes, or whatever you find that works for you. Then I'm going to cut out the center of it to create a little hole for my finger. Sort of like a little finger hat. You might have to work this multiple times. You can see here the first try didn't work, so I had to go back and make the hole bigger. This is also the third time I made this little finger. So the first two times didn't work. I scrapped them and made this one. So you're gonna put on your little party hat or your little finger condom and push down the excess clay down around your finger to make it a little bit more smoother and thinner. Any extra that you have, which you might, you're just gonna shave that right off. So you really want to thin this out. You don't want it to look like a tumor on your finger. You want it to look like it's part of your finger that it's extending from or taking over. So you're going to shave this down and smooth it out. If you do shave too much off, you can add more clay, so just be careful with it and try not to do that. I also recommend using plastic and not a real knife on this. I hope I don't have to explain why. So just little movements, shaving back and forth. You can also use your finger to soften or blend the clay as well. The size and shape is of course up to you. I didn't make it too crazy, but you could of course extend this out longer if you'd like. And the amount of fingers that you choose to do is up to you too. You could do all 10 of your fingers, you could do 7, you could do 5, you can do 4. I don't care how many you do. I only did 2 because during my tutorial or my makeup video, my Venom inspired look is mid-transformation. It's not a full Venom. So any area that the latex or the Venom costume, I guess you can say, touched me is what turned, which it only is on 2 of my fingers in that video. Anyway, I know I'm rambling, but you'll understand if you see the other video. So make sure you watch that after you watch this one. So this is taking a super long time and I'm being very precise. But I encourage you to do the same and just take your time with it. Once you're done creating the shape, you can put it next to a hairdryer for a few seconds. It'll help to create sort of sweat or oil on your finger, and the clay will kind of just fall off and keep its shape. Then you can pop that puppy in the microwave for about a minute and it'll harden. So now you have your hard cap ready to go. You can see here, it just fits right back on. It doesn't fall apart. It's not that clay soft material anymore. It is hardened. Cool. Now I'm going to make it black because it's going with the Venom costume, and I'm going to use a black cream makeup for this in a brush and just paint that sucker black. Now this cream does dry matte, and I wanted it to match the latex consistency, which is shiny. So I'm using a glaze right over top, and that's going to create more of a latex look to it. Once I'm done painting, I'm going to let them dry and move on to the next finger, following the same steps. But other than that, you're done with the fingers. So create as many of them as you want, however you'd like, but this is what I did and how I did it. And little features like this finish any look that you're doing. On to making that tongue. I'm going to use that same clay that we just used, and I'm going to start by creating a border. So I'm going to rip off a chunk of clay to use and create a worm out of this clay. I won't lie, this part was pretty tedious because I did have to figure out how I want the tongue to lay. So that's going to be really important. Make sure that you kind of get a game plan or an idea of how you want the tongue to lay. For example, which side on your chest, how far down, if you want it to be straighter, if you want it to be curved and curly, however you want to create it. So here's my little wormy snake piece of clay. And I used my little plastic knife to measure here, and I found out the length that I'm going to need it is about 2 of those. I know, super scientific here. So I'm gonna make it a little bit longer, and it's roughly the correct size. So I'm gonna make the second snake, or worm clay, or whatever. And then I'm going to make this into the shape that I want the tongue to end up being, which you can see here is sort of like a little S or curved shape. So now you can just piece the clay together to create the shape that you're looking for. And remember, this is just the border, so this is going to keep the liquid from spilling out and moving. It doesn't have to be pretty, it just has to get the job done. I also laid a straight piece on the top to finish off the border. So here's my finished border, and you can pop this guy in the oven for about a minute to make it hard. You can use wax paper or parchment paper as a transportation device, getting the clay to and from the microwave. It makes it a little bit easier. It also makes it easier for cleanup later, so that's just a little hint. Now my border is hardened, dried, and ready to go. I'm going to start by creating the tongue itself. So I'm going to use gelatin, glycerin, and water. This is going to create my latex. All of these items were purchased at my local Target, or Target for my bougie fans. I'm going to mix in the gelatin, the glycerin, and the water into a Tupperware bowl. So I used half a cup of glycerin, half a cup of gelatin, which ended up being 8 packets, and then 2/3 of water. And this is just original, boring gelatin. No flavor or anything, just plain powder. So you want to open those packets up and fill up the measuring cup. Once they're all mixed up together, I'm going to microwave this for increments of 10 seconds. You don't want it to burn. If you burn it, it's ruined forever. So heating it in small increments will help it from burning and create a warm, smooth consistency. It's also very stinky. You've been warned. It smells like dirty socks and dirty diapers. So mix it all up. I'm using a little popsicle stick that I already have from my wax kit, which is a whole nother story. I'm gonna mix this up and then microwave it again for 10 seconds. And then mix it up again, and you can see it's becoming smoother and more of a liquid consistency each time I do it. Once it's very liquidy and smooth and stinky, it's ready to go. I'm going to apply 2 drops of my tinted moisturizer. You can use foundation too, or whatever you have that will create sort of a light skin color. And then I'm going to use 1 drop of fake blood, or real blood, or whatever, to make a sort of light pink color. Before I place my liquid latex in my border, I'm going to put a saran wrap over top. The liquid latex will remove from the saran wrap super easy, so it helps to get the shape that will be created in the border out of the border. Then you can pour it right on in there. So assuming that it's the right temperature, which would be warm and not burnt, it'll move very easy for you and fast. So you want to move quickly, that way it doesn't dry on you and solidify, but also be precise and just be careful to make sure that the liquid is actually going inside of your border and not spilling out. So your border should be tall enough to catch this. You can see here it's already starting to solidify and create like a jello. Once my border is all filled in, I created a little bit of a texture using the semi-dry gelatin and the popsicle stick. I created a line down the center, sort of like your tongue naturally has down the center. And also popping any air bubbles and filling those in. But this is just gonna give it more texture and make it more realistic. Once you're done filling in the border, you can pop this in the freezer for about 20 minutes, depending on the size of the tongue and how cold your freezer is. But I would say 10 minutes to a half hour would be perfect. Just check on it. You can keep any excess or extra liquid latex that you have in the container, and you can reuse that later for something else too. After you froze your tongue in the border, you can remove it from the border and the saran wrap. It should just pop right off. And now you have your tongue. So this is fresh out of the border. So you can see I have a bit of trimming to do. You can take a pair of scissors and cut off any excess or mess up that you have. You can also thin it out if you need to, if you made it too thick. Ugh, it's creepy looking. So just use your imagination, create the shape that you want, give it a nice trim, and then you're done with your tongue. Creepy. Now I'm going to show you how I made the teeth, which honestly took the longest amount of time. Again, using another packet of clay. I did use an entire packet of clay for making the teeth, so make sure if you are going to do all of what I've shown you, you do purchase 2 packets of it, because you will need it. I didn't have any extra clay at the end. It was the perfect amount to do this. So I'm going to rip off a chunk, and I'm going to start creating little teethers. I'm going to cut off little sections. This part is a little hard to explain. It was a bit challenging as well. So I guess I made little rectangles, and then I cut them to be very tall triangles. From there, I flattened the top and I started to round out the sides. So the best way that I can describe this for you would be a Tyrannosaurus Rex or a shark, or how at least I would imagine it, or the way I've seen it on TV or in the museum. I try to mimic the shape and the size of those. So if that helps you at all, you can try that, or Google images of teeth. They don't have to be this exact shape. You can do any shape and any size that you would like. You can sort of round it out, and you want to bring the clay down to a point to create that tooth scary shape. And you will see throughout this video, some of my teeth are flatter, some are rounder, some are longer, some are shorter. I did not have a precise measurement that I used on these. I did want them a little janky looking, but if you do want them to be more precise, like how people teeth are, they're all even and the same size on each side, then you can do that too. Once I have my rounded out tooth, I created a flat surface, and I used my tabletop and plastic knife to do this. I just created a flat surface because this is how it's going to stick to my skin. I needed something flat to glue. If you keep it rounded, there won't be any edge for it to stick. So make sure you create that little ledge for it to sit. And something else to take your time on and be patient with, and to cuss at and to be annoyed with. The teeth are going to take you some time to figure out how they should sit or lay on your chest and mouth. This did take me a couple hours. This was my first round of creating these, so I assume next time I will be a pro at making teeth, and it won't take me as long. If you've done it before, then you don't really need my direction on this, but if you are like me and this is your first time or was your first time doing this, just be patient, warm up that clay, and work slow. Use any tools that you already have to create the shape that you need to, and to manipulate the clay in the way that best fits whatever you're creating. I'm gonna zoom through me doing this to the rest of them, but once they're all created and the shape that you want them, you can microwave them all for a minute to make them hard. I recommend listening to the music of your choice and drinking the drink of your choice. Mine was a nice cold glass or 2 or 3 or 4 of Chardonnay, but you should enjoy making this. Whatever you need to do that relaxes you, because it shouldn't be frustrating, it should be fun. Now just create those about 14 million times, or what felt like 14 million times, until you reach the amount of teeth that you need. I did create a few extras just in case mine broke or I needed more. If you want to create a certain amount, that's fine. I do recommend also creating just a few more just in case. Obviously, you want the teeth that are in the center to be the largest, and then the farther out you go, the smaller they get. Once the teeth are dry and solid, you can use a nail file to smooth out any harsh edges. I did make my teeth a little janky. I didn't want them to be perfect, but I did make mine a little uneven and sort of like rigid or messed up, I could even say. The file will help get rid of any sharp edges or areas that are too messed up. Teeth naturally have sort of like a porcelain, shiny glaze to them. So I'm going to use a clear liquid glaze here and apply this right over top to make them more realistic. This is optional. If you want to leave them matte, you can do that too. I just liked the finish that this gave me. So using a brush or a sponge applicator, you can just put this on all over the teeth. Then before using these, you just let them dry. I do recommend 24 hours because that's what the packaging says. As far as prosthetics and pieces that I created off of the makeup, that's it. They're pretty simple to do, they're just tedious, they're time consuming, and they can be frustrating. So again, please just take your time with them, be patient, and I promise it'll be worth it in the end. To see how I created the rest of the look and finished it, be sure to watch part 2. I will post the link here for you to click on. It'll also be in the description box. For any other questions about this part of the video, comment below. Don't forget to give a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in part 2.